So currently, you got guys like Eddie Bravo, who walks outside his house and he gets on interviews and he says things like, I don't believe that nuclear bombs are real because you can't perceive it. Like, he doesn't understand how a nuclear bomb works, therefore they are real. And these neuroscientists made this video and presented this project to kind of go against that counterculture movement by saying that, well, technically speaking, the things you can perceive also aren't real. That's why you need science. But what's up?
My name is Jacob.
I watch videos on YouTube.
Today, I got a video from Big Think, and it's some neuroscientists trying to explain why reality isn't real. Personally, I think this is going to be a
Giant loaf of bull honky, but
I'm gonna hop right into it and see what's going on, and I hope that you're having a really
real
good day. Now leave a comment, or else.
Is there an external reality? Of course there's an external reality. The world exists, it's just that we don't see it as it is.
Duh.
We can never see it as it is. In fact, it's even useful to not see it as it is. And the reason is because we have no direct access to that physical world, other than through our senses. And because our senses conflate multiple aspects of that world, we can never know whether our perceptions are in any way accurate. It's not so much do we see the world in the way that it really is, but do we actually even see it accurately? And the answer is no, we don't.
However paradoxical it sounds, if we think of what is visible as just what projects to the eye,
How do you say that guy's
we
name?
see much more than is visible. Let me give you an example. I walk into a room and there's graffiti on the wall. And imagine it's graffiti that I find really offensive. I look at it, I flush, my heart starts to race, I'm outraged, I'm taken aback. Of course, if I didn't know the language in which it was written, I could have had exactly the same retinal events and the same events in my early visual system without any corresponding reaction. Much more shows up for us than just what projects into our nervous system.
So what my guy just said essentially is, if you were walking down the street, you saw some graffiti on the wall and it was something offensive. Let's say it was like the N-word, right?
and
You felt offended.
If you didn't know English and you didn't know the history of that word and you saw that on the wall, you would think it was just some wall art, right? It's just some graffiti.
what that really means is
The way that humans perceive things is relevant to how it affects us. We don't look at the wall and say,
Ooh, there's some graffiti.
we look at the wall and say,
what does that word say?
and that means that our ability to perceive things and our ability to be observant is entirely based on our experiences and prior knowledge, and that's just kind of how we're built. A better example of that is like if you were a native human, right? If you're a tribal person, you're an uncivilized human, and you're picking berries, and you got some red berries over here and some purple berries over here, right? Naturally, you would probably eat them both unless you knew that if you eat the purple berries, you'll die.
Our senses are also making up the tastes, odors, and colors that we experience. They're not properties of an objective reality, they're actually properties of our senses that they're fabricating. By objective reality, I mean what most physicists would mean, and that is that something is objectively real if it would continue to exist, even if there were no creatures to perceive it. Colors, odors, tastes, and so on are not real in that sense of objective reality. They are real in a different sense. They're real experiences. Your headache is a real experience, even though it could not exist without you perceiving it.
So that is bull honky. But I don't really think that my guy is really saying what he's wanting to say. What he's actually saying is not true. What he's trying to say is that our perception of colors, taste, and smell is not real, but colors, taste, and smell is definitively real. All right, for instance, The fact that this is red is made up.
But
The fact that this is this color is not made up. Because we made up the word red and we made up which color was which. But this is red because the light from behind the camera that you can't see hits this object. And the physical properties inside this object,
decide that
when the light hits this object, it absorbs all the light except for this color that you see. Meaning that color is definitively real. Somebody from the planet Plartar could fly here
from Plartar
in 100,000 years and they could pick this same tile up out of the dirt
and
decide based on their perception of it that it is another color that they have learned to perceive in their universe, but they still have the same spectrum of light. Therefore, this is still real. So the idea that he's trying to get across is technically correct in saying that the way that you and I perceive things isn't exactly the way that it is, because we can't see photons flying through the air in different light beams that are deciding that this is red.
but
That doesn't mean that colors aren't real, because if you ask somebody that's colorblind if they can see this and they can see this, they can definitively tell you that these two things aren't the same color because they're different shades of gray.
Which means that color is real even if you can't perceive it.
So it exists in a different way than the objective reality that physicists talk about. We always assume that our senses are telling us the truth. So it was quite a stunning shock to me when I realized that it's not just tastes, odors, and colors that are the fabrications of our senses and are not objectively real. Space-time
fabrication.
itself and everything within space-time, objects, electrons, quarks, the sun, the moon, their shapes, their masses, their velocities, all of these physical properties are also constructions.
That's not true. That's him overcomplicating an ideal that our reality is based upon the human experience. That is a truth. Our reality is in fact based upon our perception as humans.
The human experience dictates what we decide is real and not real. The human experience dictates what we decide is important and not important.
The word electron,
is human made.
the word planet,
Is human made.
but the giant ball of rock that's in the sky that you can see if you look through a telescope is definitively there. Therefore, it's objectively real.
That's complete bull honky.
Sometimes it's really difficult for people to understand that the data that your brain is receiving is meaningless, because when they open their eyes, they look around, they say, well, I see everything. What do you mean it's meaningless? A really simple example is color.
Scientific knowledge of what light is shows us that our natural perception leaves a lot on the table.
That's true, but
The
light is
human
real.
perception of color is limited really by the principles of quantum mechanics. It's interesting to compare the human perception of color to the perception of sound. When you have two pure tones together, like a C and a G, a simple chord that's a fifth, if you hear that, you can hear the separate tones even though they're played together, and you hear a chord, you can
The
also sense
wavelengths.
the separate tones.
Operating
Whereas
in different
with colors, if you have
frequencies.
two different colors, say spectral
air.
green and spectral red, and mix them, what you see is not a chord where you can see the distinct identities preserved, but rather an intermediate color. In fact, you'll see something that looks like yellow.
That's true.
It's as if in music, when you played a C and a G together, instead of hearing a chord, you just heard the note E, the intermediate note.
So at this most basic level, we don't represent even the information we're getting in any accurate way. And the reason is because it was useful to see it this way.
That's true.
So we're seeing the utility
So you
of the
don't
data,
die.
not the data.
That's true. That's true.
Evolution, by natural selection, has shaped us with perceptions that are designed to keep us alive. So if I see a snake, don't pick it up. If I see a cliff, don't jump off. If I see a train, don't step in front of it. We have to take our perceptions seriously, but that does not entitle us to take them literally.
Perception itself, a perspective on something defined by perception, is inherently a reduction of the information of the thing. My perspective of it is going to be a lot less total information than the actual thing is. I can look at the object from the east side, or the west side, or the top, or the north side, or the inside, microscopically, telescopically. They'll all give me different information. None will give me the entirety of the information about the situation.
That's
So
true.
there is no all-encompassing perspective that gives me all of the information about almost any situation. What this means is that reality itself is transperspectival. It can't be captured in any perspective, so multiple perspectives have to be taken, all of which will have some part of the reality, some signal. There may also be distortion. I may be looking at the thing through a fisheye lens or through a colored lens that creates some distortion.
That's true.
Why does this matter? The ability to take multiple perspectives, to see the partial truth in them, and then to be able to seam them together into something that isn't a perspective. It's a trans-perspective capacity to hold the relationships between many perspectives in a way that can inform our choice making is fundamental to navigating reality well.
So I'm starting to see where this is getting to, but I do fundamentally have an issue with how the picture is being painted. So all the perspectives of this building are different, right? You might see it from one angle,
And I might see it from one angle, and he might see it from one angle, and they might see it from one angle. And when they
put the building together, the people that put the building together,
they might see the beams as different shades of gray or silver.
but I think that saying that the building isn't objectively real is misleading, because the person that's listening to you and the person that's trying to learn the thing that you're trying to teach, if you tell them that something isn't real,
Even though it actually is real,
it just ultimately confuses them. So instead of saying that things aren't real, you should just tell people that they don't perceive things as it is. But things are real. That building is still real, even if everybody has a different perspective of it. Their perspective might be skewed, but the building is objectively real.
How is it that we make claims of truth? And how would we begin to know if what we think is true is actually true? This is the beginning of the scientific method. Let us begin with observation, pose a question, figure out what the hypothesis would be that would answer a particular question, and then figure out how we would begin to address the hypothesis. That is a scientific approach to questions that could be addressed any number of ways.
There is a kind of whispering campaign against the value of objective truth. Science's belief in objective truth works. Engineering technology based upon the science of objective truth achieves results. It manages to build planes that get off the ground. It manages to send people to the moon and explore Mars with robotic vehicles on comets. Science works. Science produces antibiotics, vaccines that work. So anybody who chooses to say, oh, there's no such thing as objective truth, it's all subjective, it's all socially constructed, tell that to a doctor, tell that to a space scientist.
Exactly.
Manifestly, science works, and the view that there is no such thing as objective truth doesn't.
Exactly. Exactly. I'm with you, Mr. Dawkins. I'm really with you, right? I'm with you. But he's about to throw us a curveball, and I'm not going to be with that, I don't think.
You write down the theory then becomes your teacher. It becomes smarter than you in a way. When Einstein wrote down the equations of general relativity, he did not know that they entailed the existence of black holes. In that sense, the equations were smarter than Einstein. Einstein didn't believe in black holes for decades. The equations were very clear that they could exist. Einstein said no. Turned out Einstein was wrong and the equations were right. So it's very interesting. We do these theories because we can learn from them.
When you try to address the nature of things, you may find that asking different questions requires different ways of processing the underlying reality. For instance, in understanding the human mind, to understand it physically requires one kind of processing, and there's every reason to think that we already have fundamental physical laws that are adequate to that kind of treatment. But to understand how a person works, how thought processes, moods, and so forth add up to a personality and a human actor will require quite different ways of understanding and quite different ways of processing the underlying information structure.
So I think that I understand the point of the video, I just don't necessarily agree with the delivery method that the video used. So currently, you got guys like Eddie Bravo, who walks outside his house and he gets on interviews and he says things like, I don't believe that nuclear bombs are real because you can't perceive it. Like, he doesn't understand how a nuclear bomb works, therefore they are real. And these neuroscientists made this video and presented this project to kind of go against that counterculture movement by saying that, well, technically speaking, the things you can perceive also aren't real. That's why you need science. But I get the message, but I think the delivery was a little whack, you see, because things are real. I don't care if there's this movement going along that says since I can't perceive things, they aren't real, because those people are dumb and they're just trying to question the status quo without actually doing any work. And nobody that really cares about the future of the human race is listening to anybody like that, right? They're not real scientists, and you shouldn't even give them a look in the right direction. I understand that a guy like Eddie Bravo has a lot of influence. He gets on these big podcasts and spews his bull honky, and people probably listen to what he's saying, but like, ultimately speaking, science isn't going anywhere. People aren't not gonna believe in science anymore, and they're not gonna go back to believing in fucking magic. So I really think that you don't even need to really acknowledge that as a group of neuroscientists. Things are real. Life is real. Reality is real. The root word of the word reality is the word real, right? Period. Reality is real. It's objective. It's observable. And if you care about that, then you should get outside and do some science. If you're curious about something and there's no scientific evidence to prove it, then go do the science, right? Go do it. I think that this idea that anything isn't real is just a waste of time, and it's a waste of conversation. It's a waste of good conversation. It really is. It's for entertainment for people that take too much drugs. And if you are actually like in your right mind and you care about the world and you're not just here for entertainment, then just like ignore all that noise, right? Just ignore the noise. And I'm gonna quit rambling. I'm gonna go eat that real pizza that I just bought, that I put in my fridge so I could finish this video. And I hope that you have a really, real good day. And I'm gonna really see you tomorrow. And even if you don't watch the video is real and it's still gonna be up. And I hope that you have a good day. Bye. Also, on that note, you should really like the damn video, dog, because I just talked for like, I don't know, like 18 or 19 minutes. So just hit like, bro. Just hit like.